Wow. I'm happy to share another beautiful day with you guys. Welcome. It's Tuesday. Good to have you back on the channel. It's time now for a quick tip from Rick, and then we're going to feature your beautiful rides. Today, we're going to talk about the C7 Corvette and that little dial in the center console, that mode selector. There's a misconception on what happens when you turn that dial. We're going to talk about that, and I want to give you some custom settings as well. Thanks again for taking the time to join us. Before I get started, though, think about what today is. Today is Tuesday, and in real time, I am in Vegas driving the C8 2020 mid-engine Corvette. Man, I can't wait till I get back to see what I say about the car. I can't wait to share that with you guys. And this whole week is very special to me. I mean, the stars are starting to line up. This week, in fact, marks the beginning of my 25th year in the car business. Now, although I didn't start focusing 100% on Corvette until '96, that's when we lost Zora Duntov, and that's what I'm thinking about right now. I regret so much never having the opportunity to thank him, to meet him, to shake his hand, and I think about how far that the Corvette has come with his vision. Finally, the Corvette team is making that dream a reality, and right now, as we speak, I'm driving his dream, and wow, guys, that's just incredible to me. I really can't wait till I get back to tell you what I say. All right, let's talk about that mode selector in the C7. A lot of you guys got this wrong still, even as we exit this generation. Let's hop in a car. Thanks for joining us on a quick tip from Rick. So if you have a C7 Corvette, then this knob right here looks familiar. Yes, that is your mode selector, but keep in mind, not all Corvettes react the same when you turn this. You actually can turn this though when you're driving. You can go to the right, you can go to the left. So if you look in the bottom middle of the screen, the blue T stands for touring mode, and I'm going to turn it to the right, and now it goes to the sport mode, then it goes to the TR for track mode, and then if you don't have a ZR1, you will have a weather mode, and you do have an eco mode. But what do all these things do when you're turning that dial? So with the exception of ZR1, all C7 Corvettes have 5 mode settings when you turn that little dial. But what people think is when you turn that dial, you're changing the suspension. This is true if you have magnetic ride control. But if you don't have that suspension, what happens when you turn that dial? Well, where you're going to feel the differences is when you go into sport and TR track mode. You're going to get a little bit different feel in the steering, a little bit different feel in the accelerator pedal, and your traction assist. Now keep in mind, if you have magnetic ride control, which is an optional feature on Stingray and Z51 models, it's standard on Grand Sport, Z06, and ZR1. When you turn that mode selector into sport or TR track, that's when you're going to feel the difference in the steering, throttle progression, traction assist, and suspension dampening. So knowing that by turning that dial, regardless if you have magnetic ride control or not, you're changing the setup of the car, here's something else to keep in mind. What if you have performance exhaust? Well, the great thing about C7 Corvette, it's not like C6 where you had to pull a fuse. If you turn your mode selector to sport or TR track, it'll open up your performance exhaust. But remember what we just showed you. When you turn that to sport or TR track, regardless of your suspension, you're still changing the setup of the car. Do you want to do that just because you want the car to sound good? You're thinking, well, no, but I do want the car to sound good. Well, here's another tip for you to override that, because the exhaust ports on this are not vacuum like they used to be in C6, where you had to build up the pressure and then they would pop open. Well, they're electronic, so this is cool. Check this out. So rather than turning this dial to open up the exhaust, go into here in your information center, hit the settings button, and go to driving mode. In there, you'll see a button called Engine Sound Management. Right now it's set for auto mode selector, so when you turn that dial, if you're in sport or track, it'll open up the exhaust if they're supposed to. Say you never want those exhausts to be open. You can say, hey, I want it to be in touring mode. Regardless of what I do here, you can go into sport or track, and because this is set in touring, those exhaust ports will never open. Same thing if you come down to sport or track. Hey, I want this exhaust to be open all the time, regardless of where I'm at right here. You're in touring mode, but you want the car to sound good. Well, you have. By turning it into sport right here manually, this will keep the exhaust ports open regardless of what you do here. That's the great independency from this electronic system within your C7 Corvette. Now check this out. So remember, when you turn your dial to sport or TR track, you're also changing the steering feel. You're going to get the softest, most consistent feel in weather, eco, and touring mode. But you can actually independently control the steering as well. Now you want to talk about flexibility and independency? Try not to get dizzy. Follow me here. You're in the touring mode. Go back into your settings, go back into driving mode, and keep in mind the steering's electronic. That's why you can control that. Hit the steering tab. Look at that. You can come in here and say, I want the steering feel to be in sport regardless of what my mode setting is. And yes, you can be in sport mode and have your steering feel to be in touring. Again, an incredible opportunity for you to control the way the car feels and sounds right here in your driving mode button. Now, what about controlling the way that the dash looks? You actually have incredible flexibility there too. There's one feature though that I wish GM never would have put on the car. Let me show you. So remember, to access your driver information center, you're going to hit this 9 o'clock arrow here on the right-hand side of the steering wheel. Tap that. It brings up your menu. So when the menu's up, what we want to do is scroll down to the Options tab. Select in the center. Now you're in the Options tab. Notice right here it says Units. You're going to use this arrow to go down again to where it says Display Theme. Now you notice there's an arrow lit up in the far right-hand side over here. You'll access it right here. So when you go into this feature, this is where you control the dash display. Notice it says Sport, but we're in the blue T. So let's go back out. There's your Sport shell display, even though you're in the touring mode. When you go into there, this is more flexibility and independency. Here, when we select on the steering wheel, the touring display, it changes the shell, not the suspension. So you're in touring mode, and here's your touring display. Let's go back into there, and here is a track display. Even though you're not in track mode, still in touring mode, here is your track display. Here's the feature I don't care for, and this is the link to drive mode. This is where people can get themselves in trouble and hurt themselves. They select that, and they go, hey man, this is really cool. When I turn my mode thing over to sport, look at that. Hey, it changes my dash up to sport display. And hey, when I switch it over to track, look at this. It'll change it up to track display. Wow, that's really cool. Remember what we said, when you're turning the mode selector, which are these letters right here, you're changing the setup of the car. I wish they would get rid of link to drive mode, because a lot of folks don't realize that. You're in it for the wrong reason. You want track display, but you want to be in sport mode? You can do that. You have total flexibility and independency with so many things on your C7 Corvette. Well, are you guys dizzy yet? I told you there's so many little things to the C7 Corvette. It makes it just an incredible value. Thanks for joining us today for the quick tip from Rick. I hope I helped at least one of you out. Then that's mission accomplished. Before we go today, I've got some great looking cars to share with you again, as we do every single Tuesday. It's time to feature your beautiful rides. Thanks for watching.
I was too young, and I didn't understand that you were the one, and I can't wait to see you Hindsight is fleeting when your heart's bleeding and all you can see is red, till you discover it is within each other to forgive and make amends. If I had known then what I know now, I wouldn't have said what I said. I took the long road, thought I'd be better on my own. Sometimes what's right is wrong instead, 'cause I was too young, and I didn't understand that you And I didn't understand that you